Hello once again and welcome to Gameplay, where today we're going to be entering the 16-bit era of video games with Rise of the Robots on the Super Nintendo. Rise of the Robots could be considered an over-ambitious title which promised impressive visuals and sound to rival the more successful fighting games around at the time. As much as I want to, I'm not going to delay this review any further, so let's pop the cart in, log onto the terminal and play the bastard thing. When I decided to begin reviewing games and knew that I would eventually have to review my fair share of bad ones, it comes with the territory. And there comes a time where a game comes along where it's so bad it makes you question, how the hell did it even make it past quality assurance? Well, Rise of the Robots is one of those games. Released in 1994, Rise of the Robots was Mirage's attempt to compete with the likes of Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter, two games that had already established themselves as king of the fighters. Rise of the Robots was released in the arcade and ported to the Sega Mega Drive, Amiga, DOS and Philips CDI, to name a few. The story is not explained terribly well in the game at all. In fact, all it really explains is that you are en route to Metropolis. And could they have named the destination a more generic name? Metropolis is so cliché. Anyway, according to the instruction manual, the story revolves around a company named Electrocore, another generic name, that is the world's leading manufacturer of advanced robots. The demand for such robots was so high that the company had lost the ability to run its plant efficiently. The result was the creation of the Supervisor, a self-sufficient droid that had the ability to transform into any shape and access any database to make the running of day-to-day operations at Electrocore seamless. Anyway, long story short, the Supervisor gets infected with the ECO virus, infects other robots with the same virus and begins the process to eradicate man. Ultimately, Electrocore used their top-secret half-man, half-robot weapon Cyborg that was not corrupted to fight back against the robots, and so Rise of the Robots was born. You play as Cyborg, and only Cyborg. This is the first stumbling block you come across with the game, the fact that you don't have a character select screen. And can you imagine playing a game like Mortal Kombat and only being able to play as Liu Kang? At what point did the developers think, don't worry, a fighting game with just one playable character will be fine. Players won't give it a second thought because the graphics will be awesome. And this then makes you wonder, did they make up the poor generic story as a workaround for only being able to play as a single fighter? Were they that limited to only allowing you to play as one character? And come on, the SNES carts were not that restrictive. If they managed to pull off Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 with their roster, you would think they could have pulled this off. It just comes across as lazy. Now, I know what you're thinking. What happens in 2-player? Are both players forced to play as Cyborg? No, you don't. The second player, and only the second player, can choose their character. You can even enter a cheat code to play as the boss. But why only the second player? What did the developers have against player 1? Do they think that because they are player 1, they already have too much power? It just doesn't make sense. They already have written the code to have a player have the ability to choose and control all of the other robots, so why not share the functionality with player 1? Why are they forcing you to play as the so generic and bland Cyborg? As far as the controls are concerned, they feel very stiff, delayed and kind of a little floaty. 3 of the 6 controller buttons are assigned to punching and 3 for kicking. Not that there's anything wrong with that layout, as games such as Street Fighter and Killer Instincts adopt the same method. However, it only becomes a problem when that's the only thing you can do. There are no fireballs, no uppercuts, no special moves that you'd be expecting. Being robots, you'd think that you could throw oil, have a flamethrower, or have some kind of missile, but no, nothing. When navigating the menu, you do come across an option for super moves. I always left this on in hope that I could perform some kind of special move, but I couldn't figure out how. At this point, I turned to a good old friend of mine, the internet. It turns out the quote super moves unquote are the ability to disable super moves, reverse opponent controls, no damage and invisibility. Now, is it me or do these just seem more like cheats rather than super moves? The combat mechanics are very poor and the difficulty curve seems to have a huge spike after about the 3rd fight. It's at this point your punches and kicks almost never seem to land. I tried to be strategic about the fights too, blocking at any opportunity I could if my back was against the wall, but the amount of energy taken from blocking seems to be no different to that if I'd not have even bothered. You try to jump over the opponent and the CPU will read your attack and jump and kick you. You go to punch and the CPU's punch will land before yours. You cannot have a tactical fight, and therefore battles are won purely by button mashing and the hope that the CPU decides not to fight back. Other than what I've already explained, there is no point talking about the two-player option, with the exception of that you don't have to suffer this piece of shit alone. We've all heard the expression, never judge a book by its cover. Rise of the Robots is a shining example of this. You look at the box or images that you would see in a gaming magazine and think to yourself, wow, this game looks impressive. Believe me, they may not look like much now, but back in the 16-bit era, this game was off the charts impressive in terms of graphical first impressions. You have to give it credit where credit's due. The detail of Cyborg and the enemy robots look very good. The majority of the animations are handled very well and look nice and smooth. There are other nice bits of detail too, including the shadows and reflections on the floor which change depending on the type of arena that you're fighting in, as well as the debris that falls from your robot's body when taking damage. The finer detail of the debris is that it changes colour all depending on the paintwork of that particular robot. The arena designs are okay at best, some look better than others and they're all static images, and there is nothing at all going on in the background in any of them. To me that just seems like a missed opportunity. The title screen has a nice animation of Cyborg punching the screen, whereas the main menu treats us to Cyborg navigating the menus on the terminal. Again, you may think this is nothing special now, but it looked great back in '94. At the beginning of each fight in single player mode, a small fully rendered CGI cinematic sequence is played. Although they are very short, they are nice to look at, and the music that is accompanying it makes it a nice combination. The music to the game isn't the worst. There are some tracks that are easy to listen to, most of which have a type of techno feel to them, although there are a few stages where the music just seems dull. The main theme, which was composed by the legendary Brian May, starts off epic and traditional, but quickly becomes lackluster after about 40 seconds and then loops after 1 minute. The menu music and FMV music are okay too. I personally wouldn't say they were annoying, so no complaints there. I don't really have to go into too much detail about the sound effects either. Every hit a robot takes pretty much sounds exactly the same. With the exception of the graphics and the music, Rise of the Robots is a truly awful game. It goes to show that good graphics does not make a good game. It's all about the gameplay, no pun intended. The worst part about this is they actually made a sequel. Yes, Rise 2 Resurrection was the sequel to Rise of the Robots. At what point did they think this game was successful enough for them to consider a sequel? Perhaps it was their way of making up for all the wrongs made in this game, and perhaps I will review that one in the near future too. I personally wouldn't recommend this game to anybody. It's just not worth buying, even though it only sells on eBay for about £4 for the Super Nintendo version. Save your money and put it towards something else like some posh bog roll. At least you're treating your ass to something nice, whereas playing this game feels like you're being rammed hard and dry. Seriously, don't bother playing this game. You won't come away from it feeling like you've accomplished anything except wasting your time. Now that that's over and done with, I can put this game back into storage and hopefully will never have to put it back into my Super Nintendo ever again. I would like to hear your thoughts on the game though, because we are all entitled to our opinions, so please sound off in the comments below. Again, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to our channel and follow us on Facebook. Finally, are there any games you want to see reviewed? Please let us know, because all games will be considered. Until next time, I'm going to leave you with an audio clue as to what game is being reviewed next.